Hi there. Today we're looking at how to sew this beautiful 2-in-1 corporate wear of Nana McBrown. If this is something you'd love to learn, do stick around. Let's do it together.
We mark this to serve as our starting line. Then we divide our shoulder to shoulder into 2 and mark. Then we mark our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then our shoulder slope 1.5. 3 inches for the neck width. We draw a line to connect these 2 points. We find your shoulder to shoulder divided by 2 plus your seam allowance. This is the shoulder to nipple. Remember to add 1/4 inch allowance to it. Then shoulder to under bust, and this is shoulder to waist. Then we square these lines off. We mark our nipple to nipple divided by 2 on both the nipple and the waistline. Then we connect them. We mark 1 inch above the shoulder to nipple line, and then we divide our shoulder length into 2. We draw a line to connect these 2 points. Then the shoulder dart we're making 2 3/4, so 1 3/8 on both sides. We connect them to the apex of our shoulder dart. Now we fold that which is closer to the center front onto the other dart as we had marked earlier. So just as you can see, when we do this, you would realize that the shoulder has 2 slopes, and so we use the second one. As you can see, we elongate that. Then we mark our shoulder to shoulder divided by 2 again, plus our seam allowance. To get your arm depth, we divide our around arm measurement into 2 and mark. Then we square that off. And so this is the bust divided by 4 plus our 2 inches seam allowance. We divide the arm depth into 3, and then we also square this. This represents our cross chest line. Input across chest divided by 2. Then the dart allowance it's taken off, we also add this. Then our seam allowance of 1/4 inch. We place this French curve on to touch the 3 points, and then we connect, as you can see in the video. When it gets to the waist, we subtract 2 inches from the actual waist measurement, then we divide by 4. Then we add 2 inches dart allowance, 2 inches seam allowance. Then we draw a straight line to connect them. On the waistline, we mark 1 inch on both sides of our nipple to nipple points that we marked, and we connect all the way to the apex of our bust point. With a neck depth of 3.5 inches, we mark our front neck hole. With the design, we are marking 2 inches on the side, as you see, and then we mark 1.5 inches inward. From this point to the apex of our shoulder dart, we mark this curve to touch the center front. Then we are connecting these 2 points through. The shaded area becomes the part for the contrast fabric, in this instance the white part of our garment. Now we are to extend the chest line all the way to the back, and also the waistline is also extended all the way to the back. So just as you can see, these lines is what we have extended all the way to the back. Now we are marking our arm depth as we had for the front, and then we take it to the back. Then we square that line off, and then we add 1.5 inches for the shoulder slope as we had for the front too. We'd also square that off. From there, we take our 3 inches neck width and that of the shoulder divided by 2. And so just as we did for the front, we do the same thing for the back. Then we connect from the neck width to the shoulder slope. Right, now we're dividing our arm depth by 3, squaring this off, and then we insert our across back measurement. Bear in mind, this has no dart, and so it's the across back divided by 2 plus the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then this is also the bust divided by 4 plus our 2 inches seam allowance. With our French curve, we connect these 3 points to also get our back armhole. Right, on the waist, we divide our waist by 4 after taking the 2 inches off, remember. Then our 1.5 for the dart, then 2 inches for the seam allowance. We connect these 2 points. When it comes to the back dart, whatever we had for the front, we add 1/4 inch to it, and so this is 3 3/4. and 3 3/4 at the base, we connect these 2 points as well. Since we had added 1.5 for the dart, we take 3/4 on both sides and then we connect them all the way to the base of our arm depth. Right, and so we are doing a neck depth of 1 inch. That's what we've just marked. Then with the help of our curve, we get a perfect back neck hole. We're also doing 2 inches as we are done for the front. We are taking 2 inches inward for the back. Then we draw a line that extends to the center back. We're also elongating the back dart line all the way to touch this very design. Now the shaded area also is going to be that of the contrast fabric. We are shortening the center back by half. That is to ensure that our zipper does not bulge. After that, we can go ahead and cut this out. So we fold this dart onto the other. Then we are shortening the back just about 1/4 of an inch. This is to make sure that our zipper does not bulge, as I said. And so that's how come we reduced the back by half, and then we're using this side too. Now we cut the top off, and we're taking off the dart allowances also from the various pieces of our patterns.
We have used our pattern to cut out the fabrics and then lining as well. This is how we've added our seam allowances. When it comes to this very one, the allowance is on the top here and then on this very side. This part is on fold. When it comes to this, the seam allowance is on this very side, that side, and then on the top here. This one, which we used the white fabric to cut, also has seam allowance down here and to this side. When it comes to the back, you see the allowance on top and then this very side. And that of the back, we have the allowance on this side and then on the top. When you look at the white one, our allowance is down here and also down there. We have fused the fashion fabric itself with a woven tricot. But then when it comes to the lining, we have not. And also, when it comes to the top, we've also not fused it with any interfacing. Now we'll join that of the fashion fabric and then the lining. This is how we're joining it. We're going to join this to this side and this to that side. And then repeat same for the lining. When it comes to the back, we're also going to join this to that. And this also will be joined to this.
After joining these pieces together, this is what we have. Now when it comes to that of the top, we're going to place it on like this. And so we first stitch this very side after snipping through just a little bit. It is more appropriate to stitch the end part before you begin, so that by the time you are done, they all stay equal. None surpasses the other. So now we start from the beginning and then we stitch all the way to the point where we had created the notch. Right. And so this is what we have neatly done. Now we can place the lining good size together. Then we stitch along. After flipping it over like this, we see where the other stitching line was, and so we stitch right along that line. And by doing so, we sandwich the top into the lining and the fashion fabric, as we see here. Right. We'll go ahead and do same for the other part. Now when it comes to the front, we're also placing the contrast fabric center front good sides together. Then we would attach the top to the base of our top fabric. This is just inserting it into our printed neckline. When it gets to just about half of an inch to the tip, that is where we're creating our notch, and that is where we would also stitch the white part of our garment too. Then we flip it over like this, and then also we stitch. Right, it gives it a very good finish when you do this. We are repeating same for the other side as well, making sure we also create a notch in the print at this point. We create another in the white part at this point. We'd also create a notch here. It is very, very important because it makes sewing just a little bit easier and also makes the work neater without having any crumples at the very corners. That is when you create the notches. So you are stitching all the way till we get to the center front where the other stitch started from. That is where this very one is ending. Right, so this is what we have. We are as well going to place the lining good sides together, also with the fashion fabric, as we had done for the back part. When you do it this way, it ensures a neat finishing for your garment, because you're able to conceal the stitches in between the yoke and the dress itself. Right, now we're able to recreate the notches all along our stitches. Wherever there is a curve, it is appropriate to create such notches because it makes it nicer and also the finishing gets neater. It's also easier to work with when you are turning them to the good side out. Right. The placket measures 2 inches, and so from the exact center front, we are marking 1 inch on both sides. Right, then we align exactly along the 1 inch markings we have had, and then we stitch that, making sure that our top stitch is as straight as possible. Now we trim off the excess. At this point, we are joining the front and back shoulders together. After you stitch them, it's more appropriate to run overlock stitches to finish the edges As we do so for one shoulder, repeat same for the other shoulder, obviously. Measuring from the shoulder all the way to the print is about 1.5, and so we're marking that 1.5 at this very side. Right, and so we'll go ahead and then mark that same side, then we cut it off. Now we use the same shape to also cut the white fabric, leaving 1/2 inch excess down there, as you see. Right, so we are going to insert the white this way. Starting from the center, we work ourselves all the way to one side of the sleeve first, then repeat same for the other side. And so this is what we have when you turn to the good side. Next is to mark your seam allowance and then stitch same. And so we've done so for both the left and the right side. Because I wasn't very sure of the measurements of this client, I had to leave a little wider of the seam allowance. And so by doing what I'm doing right now, it reduces the seam bulk so that when we are attaching the sleeve and that of the skirt part of our dress, it wouldn't make it bulky. Yes, and so this is what you do. You just, turn them inward like this, and then, you pin them down so that you're able to work with it much more easier. Right, and so now we measure the whole armhole, and then we juxtapose that with the sleeve armhole. And so we'll go ahead and then stitch that of the sleeve allowance before we insert it into our dress. Now we are attaching our sleeve, that is matching them good size together. Be very careful when it comes to where the designs are, so that where the white was in the sleeve matches the white part of the garment, right? Because you don't want it to surpass. If it does, the design wouldn't come out as we so desire, and this is what is actually giving it the detailing that we want. And so you'd have to be very, very careful so that the white part wouldn't surpass that of the print. Now to the collar. We divide our neck hole on the dress by 2. Then we use this as our starting line. Then we mark. After squaring this off, we would mark 3/4 of an inch from the base upwards. Then we mark 3 inches from the starting line inward. With the help of this curve, we draw an arc to connect the 2 points. Then we are raising the neckline by 1 inch, and that will be the height of the collar. Then we curve this very side as we did for the base. Then this side becomes straight. We'll go ahead and cut this out. Remember, this is not cut on fold. Right, and so when it comes to this part will be the center back, and that part which we raised will be the center front. Now the center front part is placed on an interfacing which is put on fold, and so as you can see, right, so the center front is rather to the left and then the center back is to the right. Now with the center back, we are moving inwards by 1 inch, and then we draw a line downwards, as you can see, and this also being the front. Right, we curve it this way. Right, and so the left part, as you see, becomes the front, and the right side becomes the back. We'll go ahead and then we cut that out. Now we are now also cutting the base for the neckline, and this time too the center front is placed on fold. Now we can go ahead and cut this out. We fused the fabrics with the interfacing as we had cut them, and so each would have a separate interfacing for it. This is the second piece of our 2-piece collar. So we cut them out. And we place them good size together. We'll go and also interface the base of our neckline also to the fashion fabric. We're just cutting just about half of an inch away from the base of our interfacing. Then we press as we align the excess fabric along the interfacing. We used a violin, that is an extra hard violin for this. Some would refer to this as gum stay, others as stiff. Right, now we're leaving 1/4 of an inch space on top. Then we'll also cut that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stitch the base, and then we are stitching these 2 pieces good size together from this side to that side to the top. We leave that of the top side unsewn so that we're able to turn them inside out. We do this for both and then we press. As we locate the center for the base, that's how we're placing them on. Then we'll go ahead and stitch this to attach the 2. After we are done attaching the 2, we'll place the whole thing onto another fashion fabric. Then we stitch this very side to the outside. After stitching, we'll also fish them good side out, and would also give this a very good press. Now we're cutting the base, leaving just about 1/8 of an inch more than what we had for the top. Then we'll come and fix the collar after we've already fixed the zipper at the back of our dress. At this point, we would have attached the skirt part of the dress to the top. You make sure you align the center front of the collar to the center front part of your dress. At the back, we are leaving 1 inch. That will be used, to fasten the back. And so it's about 1/2 inch, actually, 1/2 inch excess on both the left and the right side, so that we have 1 inch overlap at the back, to bottom it up. We'll first go ahead and stitch the end part of our collar before we begin from the front. Bear in mind we are stitching from the wrong side of the neckline. The excess, the 1/8 excess that we had left, that is what we are attaching to the inside part of our neckline. Right, so we can trim off the excess zipper. Then we turn this to the good side and we top stitch. And so we'd work ourselves all the way through till we get to the other side.